They all thought Private Hannah Compton was the weakest link in Bravo Company. Too small, too quiet, too polite for military combat training. The male recruits whispered bets about how long she'd last before quitting. Drill sergeants used her as an example of everything wrong with lowered standards. And when Master Sergeant Jake Morrison, 6'4", 230 pounds of muscle, with 15 years of hand-to-hand combat experience, stepped onto the mat expecting an easy demonstration, no one imagined what was about to happen. Hannah had joined Fort Kellerman 6 weeks earlier. At 5'3", 120 pounds, with auburn hair pulled back in regulation bun. She looked like someone who belonged in a library rather than a training bay. She moved deliberately, calmly, with the kind of composure that made instructors uneasy but left the other recruits dismissive. She never complained, never boasted, never drew attention, and always followed every order with precise, methodical execution. She passed every test, maintained perfect equipment, and completed each drill efficiently, but nothing about her performance suggested she could match Morrison, the base's legendary hand-to-hand instructor. The Texas September heat was brutal at 0-700. Dust swirled across the training grounds, air thick with humidity, making every breath feel heavy. Inside Training Bay Charlie, 30 recruits stood in 2 neat rows on rubberized mats, faces ranging from overconfidence to barely concealed anxiety. Industrial fans churned hot air lazily overhead, fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across every tense expression. At the far end, Hannah stood at attention, her green eyes fixed straight ahead, her posture perfect, her breathing calm. Around her, the others fidgeted nervously, anticipating a humiliating display. Morrison, arms crossed, scanned the room. He had taught here for 4 years, and in that time, every recruit he sparred with had crumpled in under 90 seconds. Today, Hannah was his chosen example of polite, undersized recruit who needed a lesson in the realities of combat. Private Compton, Morrison called, his voice cutting through the heat. She stepped forward, measured and controlled. No hesitation, no visible anxiety. The room whispered. Bets and smirks floated around the formation. Some recruits even recorded the moment on their phones. Sure, this would be their highlight of the week. Morrison circled her, bouncing lightly on his toes, testing balance and posture. Size, strength, experience, these always matter, he announced, eyes never leaving hers. A few snickers rippled through the room, the kind that carry more disdain than humor. Hannah didn't react. She simply shifted subtly, her weight redistributing in a way almost imperceptible, her stance now tactical without changing the appearance of military bearing. The other instructors observed from the sidelines, some checking watches, others simply waiting for the inevitable. Staff Sergeant Nicole Patterson, one of the few female instructors, leaned in slightly. There was something about Hannah's micro-adjustments, the way she cataloged Morrison's movements, that made her sit forward in interest. Morrison moved first, feinting, testing Hannah's reactions. Every movement was textbook perfect, but Hannah responded with quiet precision. She didn't flinch, didn't step back, didn't panic. Instead, she shifted 6 inches, adjusted her center of gravity, subtly countering angles, maintaining balance while positioning herself to exploit openings. Morrison noticed immediately his confident expectation began to fade into professional assessment. She wasn't a nervous recruit. She was calculating, anticipating, ready. Then, the moment that would be talked about for years. Morrison reached for her shoulder to demonstrate control. Hannah's response was instantaneous. Precise, her left hand on his wrist, right hand on his elbow, guiding leverage perfectly. For seconds, that was all it took. Morrison's shoulder popped out of joint with a sound that echoed across the mat. He staggered, gripping his shoulder, while Hannah stepped back calmly, expression unchanged, apologizing quietly for the disruption. 30 recruits froze. Phones were still raised, but no one was laughing. Morrison, usually unshakable, looked stunned, then composed, processing exactly what had just happened. Patterson rushed in to assist, assessing the injury, while Hannah reported clinically, Master Sergeant Morrison's shoulder is dislocated but not fractured. Standard reduction procedures should resolve it. Her voice was calm, professional, almost absurdly understated for what had just occurred. Colonel William Hayes appeared moments later, stepping into the bay with authority that commanded instant attention. At ease, he said. Recruits snapped to attention, while Morrison, still wincing, straightened as much as possible. Then Hayes looked at Hannah and spoke a title that sent shockwaves through the room, Captain Compton. The revelation hit everyone like a physical blow. Captains didn't go through basic recruit training. Captains didn't struggle with equipment. Captains led missions. Hannah, the quiet, unassuming recruit, had been operating undercover, evaluating standard training protocols. Her 6-week performance now made perfect sense. Immaculate equipment, methodical execution, steady composure, all hallmarks of a seasoned officer masking expertise. Hayes continued, detailing her extensive background. Special Operations Command Advanced Combat Course graduate, certified in 17 martial arts disciplines. Forti plus opérationnel mission. Years as a Special Warfare Training Center instructor. Morrison, despite his shoulder, couldn't hide his professional respect. That would have been useful information beforehand. He said quietly. Hayes smiled faintly. The point was assessment. Knowing her background would have compromised the exercise. The recruits, still absorbing the revelation, began to reassess everything. Danny Walsh, Marcus Reed, Tyler Brooks, they replayed moments over the past 6 weeks, recognizing subtle signs they had dismissed, her efficient movements, her calm reactions, her restraint. The quiet professionalism they had mocked was the mark of a master operative. That evening, the barracks were quiet. Conversations that night didn't revolve around who passed physical tests or who scored highest. They revolve around perception, assumptions, and recognizing hidden competence. Lessons from that day would echo through their careers. The danger of first impressions, the value of close observation, and the reality that true skill often operates quietly, without fanfare. 6 months later, the story of Training Bay Charlie had become legendary at Fort Kellerman. Morrison incorporated the lessons into his curriculum, emphasizing threat assessment and the hazards of underestimating quiet talent. The recruits carried the experience forward, learning to observe beyond appearances. Tyler Brooks still had the video, watching those 4 seconds repeatedly, using it as a reminder that the most capable individuals often operate in plain sight. Hannah moved on to other classified assignments, continuing to evaluate and improve training systems. Her calm professionalism serving her well. The ultimate lesson, however, wasn't about combat technique. It was about assumptions, perception, and quiet expertise. Strength, whether physical or intellectual, rarely needs to announce itself. It simply exists, ready to act when a situation demands. Have you ever completely misjudged someone based on first impressions? What signs of quiet competence do you think most people miss? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And up next, you've got 2 more incredible stories waiting for you. Click to watch. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload.